The morning after I found the messages, everything was still. My apartment, once a haven, felt cold and surreal, like a movie set left behind by a crew that never intended to return. The quiet hummed with the ghost of betrayal, loud in its silence. My phone was still glowing on the nightstand. The last text from him burned into the screen like it was etched on my skin. It didn't mean anything. We were drunk. Don't overreact. My fingers trembled as I reread it for the 13th time, each word another lash against my pride. It wasn't just any girl. It was her. Ava. My childhood best friend, my maid of honor, the one who swore we were soul sisters. I had trusted her with my secrets, cried in her arms when my father died, and now she had ripped through the center of my life like a wildfire, devouring what was left of my dignity. I could almost hear her voice laughing through the walls, that high-pitched, airy laugh she used when she knew she'd gotten away with something. And maybe she had. She'd slept with my boyfriend of 3 years, smiled in my face weeks later, and gone on planning her wedding like nothing had happened. The betrayal was sharp, not like a knife, but like glass. Shattered pieces you only notice when you're already bleeding. I didn't scream. I didn't cry anymore. I just sat there, staring at the framed picture on my dresser of the 3 of us on the beach last summer. Sunlight caught in our hair, our hands intertwined like we were a story without an end. I walked over, took it off the shelf, and turned, it face down. That silence, dead and unforgiving, whispered something into me that I hadn't expected. Get even. The idea came slowly at first, curling in the back of my mind like smoke. I didn't want to destroy her. Not yet. I wanted her to know, to feel it, to understand what it meant to trust someone with your whole heart and have it spat back into your face like it was worth nothing. And the timing was too perfect to ignore. Her wedding was in 6 weeks. The gown had arrived a few days ago. She'd texted me about it with hearts and glitter emojis, raving about how it made her look like a goddess. I knew she hadn't picked it up yet. She had it delivered to my place, said she didn't want Nathan to accidentally see it. Oh, the irony. She left her most precious dress in the arms of the woman she betrayed. How poetic. I walked into the closet where I'd hidden the giant garment bag, ran my fingers along the zipper. White satin, long lace sleeves, a plunging back. I opened it slowly, letting the scent of new fabric flood the air. It was stunning. Too stunning for someone so hollow. She didn't deserve this dress, and I wasn't going to destroy it. Not physically. No, I had something else in mind. Something that would haunt her. I thought about what to do for days, scribbling in my notebook, crossing out ideas, refining the plan. I wanted precision. I wanted impact. I wanted her to unzip that bag and feel her stomach sink before she even touched the fabric. I wanted her wedding day to feel like a punishment, not a dream. So I started collecting things. A photo. Not just any photo, the one I took the night I found them. It was blurry, taken through a crack in the door, but it was unmistakable. His, hand on her thigh, their mouths pressed together, the intimacy of their betrayal frozen forever. I printed it small, the size of a palm, folded it carefully, slid it into a silk envelope, the kind that usually holds sweet handwritten letters. I sealed it with wax, her favorite color, lilac. On the outside, I wrote, "For the bride." But I wasn't done. Inside the hidden lining of the dress, I stitched a single sentence with invisible thread, the kind you could only see under certain light. I'd read about it online, in a forum about revenge and couture. It was tedious work, needle in hand for hours, pricking my fingers, but every stab was worth it. I stitched it just above her heart, where no one else would see it but her, if she looked close enough. It read, "You wear this dress stained in silence, not love." That was part 1. Just part 1. And then I called the courier, not a regular delivery. I paid extra for a personal handwritten card, From your best friend. Can't wait to see you walk down the aisle. A warm smile, a lie wrapped in a bow. When the box left my hands, I didn't feel relief. I felt power. Cold, clean, terrifying. Power. The kind that makes your blood feel like fire in your veins. I knew when she opened it, she'd smile first. Run her fingers over the lace, maybe tear up. Then she'd see the envelope, the wax seal, her name written in my handwriting. She'd open it, expecting a sentimental note, maybe a letter about friendship and loyalty and how proud I was. But instead, she'd see it, and that's when the real unraveling would begin. I didn't sleep the night after the package was picked up. My body ached for rest, but my mind ran loops around every possible reaction she might have. I imagined her opening it in her pristine, sun-drenched apartment, surrounded by champagne, flutes, and wedding magazines, her perfect engagement ring catching the light as she pulled back the ivory tissue paper. I could almost hear her squeal of joy turning into a confused silence as her fingers closed around the silk envelope. It haunted me, in the best way. I pictured her expression when she saw the photograph. That split second when her heart would skip, her lungs would forget how to breathe, and her eyes would flick to the door, paranoid someone else had seen. Guilt, shame, fear, all of it. Let her drown in it. Let it wrap around her throat like the veil she'd never deserved to wear. But part of me wanted to see it. Her face, the horror, the dawning realization. I wanted to see her crumble. So I did. Something I had sworn not to. I drove past her apartment that afternoon. I parked across the street, far enough to be inconspicuous, close enough to see through her third-floor window where the sheer curtains fluttered like ghosts. And then, as if the universe timed it for me, I saw her. She was standing in her living room, the dress draped over her arm like a wounded animal. Her expression was blank, like someone had sucked the soul out of her. She was staring at something. In her hand, I knew what it was. She staggered backwards, almost tripping on the edge of her couch, the envelope falling from her fingers. She bent down, frantically picking it back up, tearing into it again as if maybe the picture would be gone. The second time, her shoulders shook. A sob? A scream? I didn't know. I didn't care. I only knew that whatever was breaking inside her was a reflection of what she broke inside me. Then she sank to the floor, and I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, and felt nothing. Not joy, not sadness, just emptiness. But beneath that emptiness was a strange flicker, something raw and jagged. Power, maybe. Vindication. A breath of justice in a world where women like me were taught to swallow betrayal with a smile and a congratulatory toast. Didn't go home after? I drove for hours. No destination, just me and the road and the kind of silence that only comes after you've done something irreversible. I passed towns I didn't know the names of, fast food joints glowing with artificial comfort, and gas stations, soaked in flickering neon. Somewhere between one roadside diner and the next blinking billboard, I started to feel it. The weight. Not regret. No, never that. But the truth of it all sinking deeper into my bones. I had changed something. Something inside myself. There was no going back. When I finally pulled into my driveway just after midnight, my phone was blowing up. 3 missed calls from her. 1 voicemail and a text. Just one. Ava. What the hell is this? Call me now. Please, please. That one word was almost funny, like she had forgotten the weight of what she did, like I owed her an explanation. I didn't reply. The next day, I ran into Rachel at the coffee shop on 5th. She was a mutual friend, one of those people who collected gossip like it was gold dust. She slid into the booth across from me with her latte and her eyes already wide. "You won't believe what happened to Ava," she whispered, already buzzing from both caffeine and drama. "She postponed the wedding, said she was sick or something. But I heard she had a breakdown, total meltdown, like crying on the floor in her dress type shit. I feigned surprise, sipping my drink slowly. That's awful, I murmured. Do you think she's okay? Rachel nodded, oblivious. It's probably stress. I mean, she and Nathan always seemed kinda off, you know? Off, yes. That's one way to describe a man who could tell you he loves you while still tangled in someone else's sheets. I looked at my reflection in the cafe window. Same eyes, same mouth, but something was different. My face looked harder, like I'd shed some skin I never asked to wear. Days passed. Then a week. She stopped calling. Nathan didn't reach out either. I wondered if she told him. If the guilt forced her into honesty, or if she'd hidden it like the rest of her lies, burying it beneath vows and white lace. I wondered if he noticed the shift in her, the way her eyes probably darted when he got too close, the way she flinched when he mentioned the wedding. I wondered if he touched her and felt the tremor of truth buried under her skin. But then came the letter. It arrived in a pale pink envelope, her handwriting unmistakable. My name curled in cursive, as if we were still girls writing secret notes between classes. My hands shook as I opened it, half expecting more venom, more pleading. It was 2 pages long. The first was an apology, choking, meandering, but undeniably sincere. She wrote about how it happened, how she had been drunk, lonely, insecure, how she never meant for it to go that far, how she hated herself the second it ended, how she spent the next day crying in the shower, hating the reflection that stared back at her. She wrote that she'd been terrified I'd find out, and even more terrified I wouldn't, because carrying the lie felt like dying every day. She said she knew I'd never forgive her and she didn't deserve it. She said the photo shattered her, and the sentence in the dress broke her spirit. You wear this dress stained in silence, not love. She said she read it over and over again until the words felt like needles under her skin. And then, at the bottom of the second page, was one final line, scribbled in shaky pen. I'm calling off the wedding. I can't marry him. I can't live. A lie? You made me see what I am. And I'm sorry for all of it. I sat there, the letter trembling in my hands, my breath caught between fury and a strange, aching relief. I didn't know what I felt. Justice, bitterness, satisfaction, maybe a little of each. But the war wasn't over. This was just the fallout. The real reckoning was still to come. The morning the letter arrived, I thought it would be the end. That her apology, however raw and late, would close the final door between us. But instead, it cracked something wider. I read her words over and over, looking for deceit between the lines, for some twist of manipulation, some thread of self-preservation woven beneath her regret. But it wasn't there. If the letter was anything, it was honest in the most pathetic, broken way a person could be. And yet, honesty doesn't undo betrayal. It doesn't erase the months she looked me in the eye while sleeping with the man I dreamed of marrying. It doesn't untie the knots she wrapped around my heart with her fingers dipped in venom. And it certainly doesn't make me forget the sound of his voice when he said, "It didn't mean anything." I didn't respond to her letter. I tucked it into the back of my journal, pressed beneath months of scrawled thoughts, receipts of quiet moments, photos of a life that had unraveled before I even realized the thread had snapped. For a few days, I didn't speak to anyone. I just existed, walking through my apartment like a ghost in someone else's memory, cleaning things that weren't dirty, rearranging shelves that no longer held meaning. But then came the call. Not from her, from him. "Hey," he said, his voice low, cautious. "Can we talk?" It had been weeks since I heard it last, and in those weeks, the sound of it had dulled in my mind. I didn't remember how soft it could be when he wanted something. How carefully he chose his tone when he was afraid to lose. I didn't answer right away. I let the silence stretch, thick and tense. "What do you want?" I finally said. There was a pause. "She told me," he said, "about what you did, about the photo, the dress." I said nothing. There was nothing to explain, nothing to justify. And still, he filled the silence. "I guess I deserve it," he said, letting out a breath. But I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to tell you. It was one night, a stupid, ugly mistake. "I haven't stopped thinking about you," I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was insulting. The gall it took to speak like that, to reduce betrayal to a mistake, to pretend that desire was enough to erase damage. "You didn't tell me," I said, my voice even, hollow. "You waited until I found out on my own, and you didn't stop me from hugging her the next day. Didn't stop me from making her coffee, letting her cry on my couch about her wedding. You said nothing." He exhaled, frustrated, his guilt dripping through the phone like cold sweat. I know. I'm not trying to make excuses, I miss you." "You miss the version of me who didn't know what you were," said. "She's gone." He didn't answer after that. Just silence. Heavy and final. Then the line went dead. It should have been over. But grief isn't linear. It comes back in waves, sudden and sharp, like a wound you thought had scabbed, over only to realize it was still bleeding beneath the surface. I couldn't stop thinking about them. About the months they shared that secret. About the glances they exchanged when they thought I wasn't looking. About the parts of me they stole to feed their thrill. One night, I drove back to the bar where we used to go every Friday. It was dimly lit, quiet on weekdays, the kind of place where memories lived in the furniture. I sat in the corner booth, ordered the same drink I always used to get, gin and tonic, 2 limes, and waited. Not for them, for the wait. And it came. The air around me thickened with memory, his laugh echoing off the walls, her head thrown back in exaggerated delight, the smell of citrus on my hands from peeling garnishes, the feel of his hand on my knee under the table. I pressed my palms to the table, grounded myself. Then I saw her. Ava. Not in the bar, but outside, on the sidewalk, hair pulled into a high ponytail, her coat wrapped tight around her, eyes darting like she was looking for someone. Or maybe something she lost. She didn't see. Me. But I watched her. She looked smaller, thinner, like the guilt had chewed through her bones. She was holding a paper bag from the bakery 2 blocks down, probably her comfort place. Funny how we all run to the same things when we're falling apart. For a split second, I felt something that almost resembled pity. Not forgiveness. Never. That, but a kind of hollow sadness that 2 people could fall from grace so fast and so hard. That friendship, that love, could disintegrate into ash with just one night. But then she looked up. Her eyes met mine through the window. For a long second, we just stared. No words, no smiles, just everything we once were burned between us. She turned and walked away. That night, I went home and opened the folder I hadn't touched in weeks. It was labeled proof, screenshots, messages, photos, voice recordings. I'd gathered it all in those first furious days after I found out. I didn't know then what I'd do with it. I just needed to collect the pieces, to understand how deep the betrayal went. Now, I looked through them again, slowly. Not out of obsession. Out of preparation, because there was one more thing left to do. You see, Ava hadn't just betrayed me. She'd betrayed herself. And deep in that folder was the one thing that could ruin her reputation. Not just with friends, but with family, with her job, her future. A message chain between her and Nathan. But not my Nathan. Her fiancé's best man. It wasn't just a one-time thing. The night with my boyfriend hadn't been the first or the last. She had slept with 2 men in the bridal party, weeks apart. Both times while her engagement ring still shimmered on her finger. And I had proof. I leaned back, staring at the screen, heart hammering. I had a choice. Let her live with the guilt she already carried, or bring the rest of her world crashing down. And as I stared at the final message, her own words, "He'll never know unless you tell him. I'm still getting married. Don't ruin this for me." I felt something inside me settle. I clicked forward, typed in one email address. Nathan, H subject. You deserve the truth. Attached the folder, and I hit send. I didn't sleep that night. After hitting send, I sat in the dark with only the low hum of the refrigerator and the relentless tick of the hallway clock to keep me company. There was something terrifying and divine about what I had just done. My heartbeat pounded like distant thunder in my ears. My hands were cold, my face hot. The silence stretched around me like a cocoon, and I waited inside it for the world to burn. For once, I didn't doubt myself. The betrayal had already burned me down to my bones. I'd wandered the ashes of who I used to be for weeks, coughing on the smoke of someone else's lies. So if there was fire coming, let it come. Let it devour them all. The next morning was a different kind of quiet, a dangerous one. My phone buzzed once, an unknown number, no message, no voicemail. I ignored it. Then came a second buzz and a third. By noon, my screen lit up with messages not just from Ava, but from mutual friends, former classmates, even people I hadn't spoken to in years. I opened the first one. Anna, holy shit. Did you really send that stuff to Nathan? I opened another. Derek. Dude, Ava's wedding is off. Like, canceled. He walked out last night. What the hell happened? Each new message was another heartbeat in the unraveling story. The fire I had lit wasn't just burning her. It was racing through their perfect little world like gasoline down a hallway. It didn't matter that it wasn't my intent to go this far, to destroy everything she'd built. She had already destroyed me. And now she was watching her reflection crack one piece at a time. I got the full story from Michelle later that day. She called me, breathless, half horrified, half fascinated. "You don't understand," she said. He confronted her at their rehearsal dinner, with everyone there, her parents, his parents, the bridal party, all of them. I sat down slowly, heart pounding. He stood up, held up his phone and said, "Since we're celebrating the truth, maybe we should start with some." Then he read the messages. Out loud. She tried to stop him, but he just kept going. Word for word. Every line. She started sobbing. Her mom fainted. The best man just stood there with his face white like a sheet. I could hardly breathe. And then? He walked out. Left her standing there in her wedding dress rehearsal gown, mascara running down her face like a bad movie cliché. Took his ring, set it on the table, and walked out. Didn't even look back. I should have felt triumphant, victorious, like I'd finally reclaimed something they stole. But what I felt wasn't triumph. It was silence. Deep, endless silence. The kind that settles in after a storm and reminds you how much was destroyed. Ava tried calling me that night. 7 times, I didn't pick up. The voicemail started off shaking with rage, furious accusations, words soaked in pain and denial. "You vindictive bitch, how could you do this to me? We were friends. You don't get to ruin my life just because you were too boring to keep your boyfriend." But by the 4th message, her voice cracked. "Please, I messed up. I know that. But you didn't have to ruin everything. You don't understand what this cost me. I've lost everyone. My parents won't even speak to me. I don't know who I am anymore." I almost pitied her then. Almost. But Pity fades when you remember the nights she looked you in the eye while holding a dagger behind her back. I didn't answer. I never would. A week passed, then 2. The calls stopped. The buzz faded, the dust settled, and I started to breathe again. Was a different kind of breath. One you take after running for miles, when your lungs sting and your chest is raw, but you're still alive. The kind that fills you up, not with peace, but with clarity. One evening, I took the dress out again. I didn't know why. It had been sitting in my closet, still zipped in its bag, like a ghost I couldn't quite exorcise. I laid it across my bed. Still stunning, still flawless, but now tainted. A relic of a life that never existed. I slipped it off the hanger and ran my fingers across the fabric, tracing the threads I had stitched with my own pain. You wear this dress stained in silence, not love. It felt like the words were alive, like they breathed from the seams. I sat down beside it and let myself cry. Not for them, not even for the betrayal, but for the part of me I lost to all of it. The girl who trusted too easily. The girl who believed love was enough. She was gone, and in her place was someone stronger, sharper, wiser. Someone who had walked through hell with her head held high and came out not clean, but cleared, burned down to the truth and rebuilt from nothing. In the weeks that followed, people stopped talking. Ava disappeared from social media. Nathan moved to a different city, took a job in Boston. And me, I started over, not dramatically. There was no triumphant reinvention montage, just quiet mornings, long walks, and time. Time to heal. Time to become someone I liked again. I started writing again, journaling with a kind of hunger I hadn't felt in years. I turned pain into pages, rage into rhythm, betrayal into art. Every word another stitch in the wound. And one day, I opened my laptop, looked at the blank screen, and typed the first line of a book. She slept with my boyfriend, so I sent her wedding dress back, with a twist inside. It wasn't just a story, it was a purge, a reclamation. Because the truth is, revenge doesn't heal you. It doesn't undo the sleepless nights or return the part of you they shattered. But it does give you something to stand on when the world has knocked you to your knees. It gives you closure, and sometimes that's enough.